What's up, everyone? We're here for another live stream today. I'm glad you're here. Someone earlier on Twitter was saying that my streams were, what was the words that they were using? I don't know, not very exciting. So now we've got some super upbeat music, and we're doing this. And now we're going to get into the boring stuff. Let's see. Where we left off yesterday was we're building a Worldle clone for fun and to make millions and millions of dollars off of. And we're going to be doing it with Remix Run because that is a project that I'm particularly interested in, not because it's the right choice for this project. In fact, I'd say it's probably entirely the wrong choice. Super over-engineered. But I wanted to play around with it and start getting used to it. So that's where we are. So let's see. Where are we here? Right. I was having some errors with my ESLint stuff. And the reason is because my ESLint is not set up to work with JSX. So let's see. What do I want to do? Well, I want to bring over my terminal. I want to run npm run dev. Or actually, I don't want to do that yet. I want to install ESLint JSX plugin. Something in there. I think ESLint plugin JSX should... That doesn't look good. That's not the one that I want. I mean, it may be just this ESLint plugin React. So let's try... That doesn't sound right either. But let's try that. Oh, no. That's right. I remember. ESLint JSX. Just need a quick search for that. And I think that the problem is configuring ESLint to work with JSX. That's right. I saw this before. Go away. Customize settings. Confirm my choices. So, right. So here in the parser options, we need to add this ECMA features JSX and set it to true. So if we go to our ESLint, which is probably one of the most boring things to watch someone do, is I basically just need to enable that, hit save, go back to the file that I was looking at, and I still have this error because ESLint hasn't rerun since opening this file. So what I can do is either close the file and reopen it, or actually, because I have my editor configured to run ESLint to format my code every time I hit save, or I guess I have format on save turned on and ESLint is my formatter. When I hit save, it should run. It ran. Okay, just took a little minute. So we saw a whole bunch of stuff got, I now have more problems than I had before. Let's see what's going on. So this first problem is with these line endings. Something to do with prettier. I really don't know what the problem is there, but it has something to do with how the lined endings white space is. So changing that to LF, I don't know what that does, but that's fine. And then we can hit save. We can see we no longer have the ESLint errors here. Thank you for enabling JSX. And then we had some comment here because I have a JSDoc plugin that likes to have, like, what is it? It likes to have, just likes to be involved in the process. And somehow putting a comment block there for my function satisfies it. Cool. We also have, let's see, this use loader data was not working correctly yesterday. That was a TypeScript thing. It's because it has a generic TypeScript, if this makes sense to you, it'll make sense. If this doesn't make sense to you, it's not going to make sense. So I'm not going to spend too much time explaining it. But basically, this function doesn't know what type this should be. And that's because I have an incorrect path to my type definitions. So if I use the correct path, then it's going to take a minute to load. Maybe reopen it. Okay, that's taken a long time. It might be this. I did try to fix this. Leave that turned off. Let's try reloading that. Well, that is taking a while. But in theory, we'll just assume that this is working correctly now. I did kind of play around with it before the stream so that I am not entirely live right now. But yeah, this should be pulling in my type definition for the post, which means that this should be set to, well, once it resolves, this should be set to an array of post objects. And that's all good. Now, I don't want to spend too much time faffing about with remix or type definitions or ESBuild errors or anything like that. So what I'm going to do is, we probably don't need a lot of this. I want to just get back into the homepage, and I want to start building out my layout for my Worldle clone. So let's take a look at Worldle. A daily word game. Cool. Looks like we have some rules that I'm not allowed to see anymore. Yeah, there they are. Cool. We get 6 tries. Each guess must be a valid 5-letter word. Hit the enter button to submit. After each guess, the color of tiles will change to show how close your guess was to the word. So W tells me if it's in the word. No, if it's in the word and in the correct spot, we color it green. If it's in the word but not in the correct spot, we color it yellow. And the letter U is not in the word in any spot if it's gray after we've submitted. Okay. Cool. So let's give this a try. I'm going to say my first guess is... I can't do nugget. Chihuahua, dachshund. I don't know a 5-letter word for dogs. Paws. That's also not snout. Sure. So as I type, I get to see my letters. I get some cool animation. I get to retry or change things. And then when I hit enter, that's when I see the results. And I can see, cool, my keyboard shows that that's no longer available. Awesome. We don't need to spend too much time actually looking at that. We can get into localhost 3000. We can get our development environment up and running on Remix. Should be going. Cool. We've got our tutorial. Let's get all of this stuff blown away. I'm going to call this Worldle. I don't know if I necessarily need this stuff. We can get back to that later. And cool. There's our thing. We have our root object here where we're putting this link to posts. We don't want that anymore. Looks like it's giving me an error that these are defined but never used. That's not quite true because these are definitely used here. So another ESLint bug, I guess. We don't have to worry about that now. Let's go back to our app. We've got this. Cool. I want to see, how do I install a CSS library? So I know the one that I want. I'm going to say npm install Bedrocks. This is a CSS, what are they called? Reset. It's kind of like a reset or like a starting point that I maintain and I like. Very lightweight, very simple. And I think I can probably, I'm guessing I can import that here. And if I hit save, hopefully that CSS will be incorporated. No. What do we got? Unexpected token. Okay, so it looks like it doesn't know how to handle CSS. Okay, let's see what we've got here. CSS. Today's ecosystem. Here's some background on where we're at. So, okay. Route-based style sheets and Tailwind both have exceptional. So I can, okay, so that's kind of cool. It looks like I can customize which CSS is added based on the route, which is nice. I don't necessarily need to bring everything into my applications like homepage or something like that. Remix makes writing plain CSS a viable option even for apps with a lot of UI. How and when to load CSS. If the class names and selectors you were using were accidentally styling other UI in the app. Okay, talking about plain CSS. So now we're looking at route-based importing CSS files. I'm trying to do just this. Okay, but we need to add it as a link. And this is local CSS. This is not a library. CSS and JS libraries. Remote style sheets I don't want to do. Because, yeah, of course I know how to do unpackaged stuff. Well, that's not going to be super helpful. Okay, well, we're going to try this then. We're going to try importing styles from Bedrocks, which hopefully will be treated as CSS and not as JS. And then my links. Guessing I can export links, which is a links function. I don't know. Hopefully this will work. Change that so it's bounce equals a function, rel style sheet, styles. We're going to call this Bedrocks. And hit save and hope for the best. I think that this really should work. We have our function definition. I would expect this to work, and it's not working. Why? Because it doesn't understand that this should be importing a CSS file from Bedrocks. It's kind of annoying. Okay, so Primary style remix. Let's add a link style sheet to the page, which I should be doing. Let's check out Bedrocks really quick because I know that I will be able to pull in, this route, which means worst case scenario, I can do this. No. That out. Now this should definitely work. Yeah, cool. We've got our styles coming in. I'm gonna just leave that as a link to unpackage. I want to though. I'd like it to be incorporated into the app CSS files. I wonder if that does have to be done with. Let's see what it says about Tailwind. Okay. Add concurrently Tailwind. Currently run dev CSS. Dev CSS says we want to build the CSS file out to Tailwind CSS, and then here we import our styles. Okay, I want to try one more thing, and then I'll move on with my life. Let's try importing Bedrock CSS from. It should be at bedrocks.min.css. So now that I'm saying this is a CSS file, is it going to understand that? Okay, that's weird. This package defaults to exporting, like that's the main export from this package, but for some reason I need to explicitly say no. This worked a second ago. We are rebuilding, we've rebuilt, we're reloading. Okay, that's weird. Yeah, it's like it didn't, I had to explicitly say that it was this CSS file. Okay, cool. So what does that actually output? Oops, I don't want that. I want my, please. There you go. DevTools. DevTools, let's bump you up so people can read. And what do we got in the head? We should have our link to our assets. Okay. This is loading in development mode. I don't know what it's going to look like when it loads in production. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. I really just wanted to load this locally and not make the request to unpackage CDN to get that Bedrocks file. In the end, it is still the same styles. Cool. So that is my styles. It's kind of interesting that this project, the only styles that this project ships with to show how to do styles is inline styles. Onward. Okay, so now in index.html, I also want to have my CSS because I'm going to be writing some CSS. I'm just going to do that in another file here and say index.css. Hopefully that's kosher. Let's close that. Let's close that. Actually, where's my root? Yes, I want to copy this. Then in theory, this links export should work the same in this file. And I want to import styles from index.css. Okay. So next what I need to do is say body background red. And let's do a little sanity check there. Okay, cool. It's working as expected. So we have some hierarchy of, well, essentially the cascade is what I'm trying to capture here. I want to make sure that my styles for this page load after the styles for the entire application. That way it follows the logical cascade flow of CSS, where I can write styles for this page that also apply, like basically the same styles for both of these, but the one that comes later is the one that takes precedence. And we can test that by saying, cool, the body has, well, I guess the body here doesn't have a background defined, but I could say, cool, this body from index, my index styles is going to overwrite my Bedrock styles by saying the font family is like monospace, right? And we see that one. If it was the other way around, where, well, I guess I can't give an example if it's the other way around because the later one wins. We do have an example of it being the other way around. Okay, cool. Let's get into what I actually want to work on. So for that layout, I know that I'm going to need something with attempts, which is going to be an array. Oops. An array. I know that it's going to have 6 tries. And I know that it's like an empty, each of the arrays start out empty, right? Because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tries. So I want to count for all 6. Basically building out a grid here. And I can do this either with a 2-dimensional array or a nested array where we have one array for each row, and then each row is an array with 5 items for each letter. Or I could do just one array, a 1-dimensional array, 6 items for 6 rows, and each row is a string. So let's keep it simple and just start there. Actually, before that, I have the const, the actual Worldle is going to be some 5-letter word, W-U-R-D-L, sure. That's not a real word, so that technically already broke the rules. Real word is going to be T-R-O-U-T, trout. We're going to look for snout. The real word is trout. Maybe pout. No, pout is 4. Okay. Attempts is an array of 6 items. So here's a handy little trick. If you ever need to do like an array where you don't care what the contents of the array are, or you just want to quickly map over it, you can do, new array constructor with the length that you want. And then let's actually look at this in the console. I don't like that red. Let me hit save. Hit save. Okay, so let's look at that in the console. And side note, if you're wondering how this Bedrock CSS is, it's actually really cool. I want to point it out. It's pretty lightweight. I think it's only like a kilobyte. But one of the cool things that it does is if you look at the body and the body is like black, so you're like, oh, cool, it does some sort of dark mode thing, right? Not by default. It actually looks at the root of the application as far as CSS is concerned. So in this case, the document root. I won't get too far into that, but it sets this color scheme rule or property to light dark, meaning we prefer light mode. We also support dark mode, but in the event that the user has a defined preference, so in my case, I prefer dark mode on my system UI level or my operating system level, or browser level or something like that, I can say, hey, I prefer dark mode. And so my CSS, my application here is going to say, cool, we support both. So whatever you want, you get. And in this case, it's going to set the background color. Like I didn't define the background color. That is a native browser color choice. I'm just saying out of the gates, light and dark mode supported, right on. It also handles coloring this white. Like this color here, I don't think, yeah, the color, let's see, computed. The color scheme is light dark, but the color of the actual text isn't being defined anywhere or inherited from anywhere besides the color scheme, which again is inherited from the system preferences, the user preferences, me in this case. Same with the font family, actually. I see a lot of resets that do like, I don't know, have like a whole bunch of different font stacks. And I thought with this one, it'd be cool to just, it's probably going to be overwritten anyway. So let's just fall back to the system UI, and then the developer, if they want to change it, can change it. All about the CSS supporting end user preferences. I think it's super cool. What was I saying? Oh yeah. We're here. We're going to play with generating new arrays. So if I want to create an array of some arbitrary length and maybe like map over it, whatever, just like generate an array, I could, of course, say, I have an array with 1 item, 2 items, 3 items, 4 items, 5 items, and 6 items. This is a 2-dimensional array. All of which, or this is a 2-dimensional array within which there are 6 empty arrays. And I guess that might actually be less work, but we're going to do it the fancy way and say that we know the length that we want. So we're going to say to use the array constructor. We're going to pass in the length of 6. If we just do this, we are going to get an array with a length of 6. But the contents of the array are actually a weird, I've heard this called a holy array, that the items in there don't actually do anything. So if we want to don't actually do anything, well, that doesn't mean anything. They're not undefined, they're not null, they're just like nothing. So if we map over this, something weird kind of happens. And let's say we console log. No, what do we get? We would expect like the array item. When we console log the item, we'd expect to get something, but instead we get back the entire array. And that's kind of weird, especially if we wanted to do something like transform this array from that item into the string of hello. What I would expect is 6 strings of hello, or one array with 6 strings of hello in there, right? That's not what we get. So the way we can fix that is by dealing with these empty items. We can actually fill each one, and you don't need to pass anything in there. You can pass nothing, and it's just undefined. So now we get something that is more like what I personally find more intuitive, or would assume is the case. Now we have an array with 6 items in it still, but those 6 items are undefined. So you see the difference between that array and this array we had before. They both still have this length of 6, but there wasn't actually anything in that array before. Really weird. So yes, with that, with that, what can we do? Oh yeah, then we can do the map thing that we wanted to and console log. And now we see the undefined and the index, because map gets two parameters, the item and the index. And yeah, so we can work with that, right? So we can say map, I'm going to pass it a function and it's just going to return, what did we want? I think just an empty string, right? So an array of 6 items, all with empty strings. 6 empty strings. Okay, why am I going through all this? Is because in my application, I'm going to say, that's not how you spell attempts. Is that how you spell attempts? Looking it up now. Yeah, that's how you spell attempts. What's wrong with me? It just looks, doesn't that look funny? It's probably the red squiggly. Right, so this was the trick that I was showing. And ESLint is saying an error like don't use new array. It's going to tell me something that's even the same thing but different. We'll look at that. Which is, if you want, you can also, instead of saying new array 6, you can say array.from, and that can take any object that has a length property, and it will do the same thing. So once again, new array of 6, array from length of 6. I like the first one because it's shorter, but it is good to avoid this pattern here because it can be confusing for all of the reasons that I described up here. Essentially, I'm going to ignore that rule though because I like it. We'll do a quick fix. Disable no new array for this line. Cool. We still have this error that we have an unused thing. Okay, so now what I need to do is I want to build that grid of guesses. So am I going to go with functionality first, or am I going to go with layout first? I think today, with how much time I've already spent on CSS, I'm going to go with styles and layout, which means, let's see. So we can say attempts.map div of, let's say, yeah, we'll put the index in there. Oops. Of the index. And we'll close that off. We're returning that. Oh, I'm missing one of those little dudes. Cool. We're returning everything. We should be mapping over each item. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, React is going to yell at me because it should have a unique key. But I've got my array. That is my rows. Okay, so now I need, it is going to be a grid, right? So how do I want to do this? Okay. I think I actually want this array to be filled with not a... So this is tricky. Do I want to use strings or do I want to use two-dimensional arrays? I want to use a two-dimensional array. So this is also going to return I think that that's right. So this should be not 6. This should be a length of 5. So this should be an array where each item is an array of 5 undefined things. So then I can say cool attempt.map. This is going to be the attempt, and this is actually going to be the word letters. Guesses. And kind of the same thing here. I don't think I need the index. This is the... Oh no, I probably will need the index actually. Yep, I will want the index. That is going to return... Oh, I do still want that div actually. A div whose contents... Okay, I'm getting a bit lost here. That should be that. That should be my closing div. This letter should be letter. That should be the letter index, and this is going to be the guess index. Cool. Key equals guess index, and key equals letter index. I think that should give me my two-dimensional thing. Yeah, we've got our... So we should have 6 divs with 5 divs each. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's because we need our letters here. Okay, we check out our body. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 divs, each with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 divs. Now, I'm going to get to the semantics and the accessibility stuff eventually. If you're yelling at me, I'm going to get there. Looks like we got a comment. Hello, Austin. How are you doing? Thanks for asking. I'm doing pretty well. I've got my dev.2 sweater on. Got my 8-bit music playing, and we're working on something cool. Looks like, let's see. I have a question regarding optimization of a shortcode in JS. The platform I'm running it on throws a timeout error after 12 seconds of runtime on very long strings. Would love to see how you would approach this. If you could spare the time. What's a good way to send that code? Probably not in YouTube chat. Why don't you send it to me on Twitter or something, and I can see if I can take a look at it. CodePen. CodePen also works. CodePen works great. And we'll see if it's a problem that I can get to in 20 minutes. We'll see if we can have you solved or sorted. No promises. So in the meantime, let me fill this with like, no, let's fill this with a letter, I guess. The letter N for nugget. If we reload this, cool. We've got our 30 divs. And now what I'm going to do is do a little bit of styling. Grid, columns 6. It's a little naming convention I like to use. Some atomic CSS, please just let me be. That looks fine. Columns 6. Don't want the padding. Grid template columns. I don't think that's what I want. Okay, cool. Looks like we've got our code pen. I guess we're showing it. I have no way of copying and pasting that in this. Give me 1 second. Got to dig into the source code to grab this code pen link. That's funny. My little streaming thing where, well, okay, it looks like these messages are coming in on Twitch. Let me pull that up. Twitch TV. Hey, Austin Gill. Look at that cute guy with the funny mustache. It's a small challenge. If you need context, let me know. I will see what I can do. I don't see your messages because I just got here. Man. Let's see if I can get there really quick. Okay, I got it. All right, we've got no HTML, no CSS, just some JS. So I'm going to open up my console. I just want to see a JS panel. I don't need the results. So we've got a function. Do we have one function or two functions? It looks like one function with a function. This is not going to run if we return up here. But the idea is, let's see. All right, web dev journey. Complete the function scrambler. Complete the function scramble that takes a parameter of str1 and str2 that returns true if a portion of str1 characters can be rearranged to match str2. Otherwise, returns false. So this seems like a pretty good approach where you split and sort it. If a portion of str1 characters can be rearranged to match str2. And then you're returning search string every, okay, and then you have, get occurrences down here. Get occurrences. search letter occurrences, data letter occurrences. So I probably have to think about this for a bit. Basically, it feels like you need to do some sort of nested loop where you detect if actually, I might have to send you a Medium article or link to a Medium article that this looks like a problem. These sort of like algorithm questions usually come down to discovering what the pattern is to use and then building essentially the same sort of algorithm as an answer. So yeah, that would be better. I'd rather have a direct. I would rather have a direction rather than a solution. Cool. Yeah, let me see if I can look that up. But it's called like the sliding window algorithm or something like that. But essentially, I don't know if I'm going to find it. But essentially, with this sort of image, I might be able to describe it. The question is whether a portion, and I might have this wrong, but the question is you have two strings and you're trying to determine if the, what was it? Turns true if any portion of string 1 can be rearranged to match string 2. Okay, so string 2 is static. It's never going to change. And we can basically say that because it has to match string 2, the length of string 2 is the sort of window that we're working with. So this window here that you can see is like if string 2 was a word with or maybe not a word, but had a length of 8 characters, you know that window is never going to change. So then you basically have to loop over string 1, which here represents this number of 1 through 10, and grab the 8 characters in from 1 through 8 and I guess rearrange them. Well, I guess you would try. I would probably just loop over string 2 and see if all of those characters in the portion of string 1 that we're looking at exist. And not just exist, because if you have 2 letter E's, you want to make sure that you account for both of them, or that, I don't know if I'm even making sense. Basically, if the word of string 2, that is the needle, is like meet, like MEET. So you have to make sure that the portion of the first word has 2 letter E's in it as well. So not just that it contains a letter E, but that it in fact contains 2 letter E's. Hope that makes sense. But we can basically say, hey, letters 1 through 4, do those contain the letter M, 2 letter E's, and the letter T? If so, it doesn't matter what order they're in. We know that it can be rearranged to match the string 2. I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm being really confusing, but sliding window sounds like the right approach, or at least something to look into. It sounds similar, but basically instead of giving you a solution here, I'm just going to walk through the steps. So the question is, can any portion of string 1 be rearranged arranged to match string 2. Right? Other way around. No, that's right. If a portion, the thing, I'm going to put it up on the screen here, web dev journey. Complete the function scramble that returns true if a portion of string 1 characters can be rearranged to match string 2. yeah. Oh, yeah. Now you're correct. Yeah. Let's keep that up on the screen so we can see. Cool. And can everyone see okay? Can I zoom in just a little bit? Again, we're not going to solve this, but I think I'm going to break down the steps that I might take. Is one, I want to, we know that length and order of string 2 never changes, right? Because that's the thing that we're matching against, or like the needle. So therefore, we can say loop over sections of string 1. I guess loop over slices of string 1 with the same length as string 2. I hope that makes sense, because basically we're taking portions, right? If string 2 has a length, let's do this. If string 2 has length of 4, first iteration is str1 at position 0 through str1 at position 3, or index 3, right? That's the length that we want to check. Next, we say test that all letters in str1 exist in str2. And this is probably a good point to ask your, if this is like a coding challenge or like an interview question, this would be a good point to say, what happens if str2 equals meet, right? And str1 at 0 through 3, those indexes, the part that we're comparing to, is something like meta, right? The reason why this is a good question to ask your the person asking you this question is because technically, I think according to the question, it's asking whether the letters can be rearranged. And here we can't just say, does this string contain MEET or all the letters? Because this would say, yes, it has an M, it has an E. When we check again whether E exists, it doesn't. And it has a T, right? We basically want to, like, I don't know, we could turn this into an array and pop each one off. But we basically want to track which ones of these have been checked already. I hope that answers your question. Did you have, I don't know, do you have any more questions at this point? Does that sort of make sense? It looks like you're saying that this example should return false. Should be false. If this was like team, this should be true, right? So now now you're saying that the problem is with sorting. Yes, you could technically sort both of these. You could say, sort str2 and str1 such that you would end up with EEMT, and the first example would be EEMT. And then you can basically loop over just one of these and say for each item in this sorted string, does this index for this word match the index or the item at the index of that word, right? Okay, so you're saying, sorry, I forget. I wasn't sure what the question was. So you're asking about performance implications of this function. And you're basically splitting it and then sorting it. Oh, because it's a really long string. Right. That was the original question. Yeah, so if string 1 or if string 2 is super long, right, so this makes sense. I think the problem might be that string 1 can be super long, right? So instead of splitting an entire string, you can actually just grab, do something like, hey, for this first loop, and I guess you'd need to know the length of string 1, which you should have, but you don't need to split the entire thing and then sort the entire thing. You can take string 1 dot slice, I believe, and you can take from position 0 to position 2 dot length, and I think that might only take, right, if string 2 has a length of 4, here you're only grabbing the first 4 characters of string 1, and assuming we do this in a loop, meaning like while iterations are less than length of str1. This is just some pseudocode I've got here. While we iterate over iterations, while we loop over the length of string 1, we can say, cool, let's take that index and grab, that from that index to the length. Okay, and you're telling me the slice is not inclusive. Cool. So yeah, you just be length -1, whatever. And this way, we're really, instead of comparing against this entire array of string 1, we're just grabbing like the same length characters as string 2. I think that probably solves your performance issue, just taking a first stab at it. But I could be wrong. And it also depends, like if string 2 is super long, you might also have another issue there. Then you can get into like streams, but my guess is that may not be what you're dealing with today. Anyway, that's actually takes up all the time that I have today. So we're going to come back to this. We looked at some interesting ways to, some interesting problems. Thank you for joining. Glad to have you here. Thanks for bringing your questions. Glad that I could give you some idea on how to solve it. And then, yeah, some cool stuff we looked at today in the actual stream was, I don't know, the most interesting thing is probably we figured out how to do some style sheet stuff in Remix based on the route. And we also did some interesting, like, generating placeholder content with arrays. Thank you for looking into this. Your stream, good stream as usual. Thank you very much. I love the kind words. Please, let other people know if you like it and subscribe and do all the things. I'm having a lot of fun with this, so I'm glad to have other people along for the ride. Yeah, that's it. I'll be on not tomorrow because I take breaks on the weekend. I'll be back on Monday, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And feel free to check in with some questions. All right. Catch you later.